the little dreamer with big goals. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the dusty playground as 8-year-old Miguel Santos kicked a worn leather ball against the cracked concrete wall. His thin frame barely cast a shadow, and his oversized jersey hung like a tent around his small shoulders. The other kids called him Palito Little Stick, but Miguel's warm brown eyes sparkled with something that couldn't be measured by size or weight. "Miguel, come inside for breakfast," his mother's voice echoed from their small apartment window overlooking the neighborhood field. But Miguel was lost in his own world, imagining himself as his hero, Ronaldinho, weaving through defenders with magical feet. Truth was, Miguel felt invisible most days. At school, he struggled to focus on anything for more than a few minutes. His teachers would find him staring out the window, his mind wandering to distant soccer stadiums filled with cheering crowds. His grades reflected his scattered attention, and his parents worried about his future. "That boy needs to find something to anchor him," his father, Carlos, would tell his wife Elena during their quiet evening conversations. "He's got good heart, but his mind is like a butterfly, beautiful, but never landing anywhere long enough to grow." Every afternoon, Miguel would venture to the neighborhood field where teenagers and young men played pickup soccer games. Barely 60 pounds soaking wet, he looked like a toothpick among giants. The older boys, some already sprouting mustaches and deep voices, would reluctantly let him join when they needed an extra player. "Don't worry, we'll go easy on you, pequeño," they'd say with patronizing smiles that made Miguel's cheeks burn with embarrassment. During these games, Miguel felt like a leaf caught in a hurricane. The ball would zip past him before he could react. Stronger players would brush him aside like he was made of paper. He'd run with all his might, his scrawny legs pumping furiously, only to arrive at the ball a second too late, watching it sail over his head to another player. "Maybe soccer isn't for you, Palito," suggested Diego, a 16-year-old who towered over Miguel like a skyscraper. "You could try chess or something that doesn't require, you know." He gestured vaguely at Miguel's slim frame. But Miguel's response was always the same, that radiant smile that could light up the darkest corner of the field. "I'll get better," he'd say with such conviction that even the cynical teenagers couldn't help but grin back. "You'll see." His persistence puzzled everyone. Game after game, Miguel would return, sporting fresh bruises and grass stains, ready to be knocked down again. His unwavering optimism became legendary in the neighborhood. Even when nutmegged for the third time in one game, even when his shots sailed high over the goal like confused birds, Miguel would bounce back with that infectious laugh. "That kid's got heart of a lion in the body of a sparrow," observed Father Martinez, the local priest who often watched the games from the church steps. Miguel's older brother, Carlos Jr., or CJ as everyone called him, was everything Miguel wasn't. 15, CJ was already built like a proper footballer, with broad shoulders and powerful legs that could send a ball rocketing across the field like a comet. He played for the local teen league and was scouted by several academies. One sweltering afternoon, after another particularly bruising game where Miguel had been steamrolled by a boy twice his size, CJ found his little brother sitting alone on their apartment's tiny balcony, staring at the distant mountains that hugged their city. "Tough game today, Hermanito?" CJ asked, settling down beside Miguel on the weathered plastic chairs. Miguel nodded, trying to hide the tears that threatened to spill. Sometimes I wonder if they're right. Maybe I'm just not built for soccer. CJ studied his brother's face, that stubborn chin, those determined eyes that never quite gave up hope, even in defeat. You know what I think? I think you're looking at this all wrong. What do you mean? CJ stood up and pretended to dribble an invisible ball. You're trying to play their game, the big, strong, fast game. But what if you played your own game instead? Miguel wiped his nose with the back of his hand. I don't understand. Come on, I'll show you something. CJ led Miguel to their small living room and pulled out his laptop, a luxury their family had saved months to afford. He opened a video sharing website and typed in search terms with the focused intensity of a scientist making a discovery. Watch this, CJ said, clicking on a video titled The Magic of Small Players. The screen filled with footage of some of the world's greatest soccer players, but these weren't the towering giants Miguel was used to seeing dominate the local games. These were players who looked more like Miguel himself, compact, quick, and incredibly clever. Look at this guy, CJ pointed at a player dancing around much larger defenders. Lionel Messi. He's not the biggest, not the strongest, but watch how his mind works. Miguel leaned forward, captivated. On screen, Messi received the ball surrounded by 3 defenders, each one significantly larger than him. But instead of trying to outmuscle them, he used their size against them. A quick touch here, a subtle shift of weight there, and suddenly he was through them like water flowing around rocks. And this one, CJ clicked to another clip. Xavi. Watch how he sees passes that others can't even imagine. For the next 2 hours, the brothers sat transfixed as CJ showed Miguel video after video of players who had turned their supposed disadvantages into superpowers. Small players who were so quick and clever that defenders looked like confused elephants trying to catch mice. Your size isn't your weakness, Miguel, CJ explained as they watched clip of a tiny player nutmegging a giant defender. It's your secret weapon. You just need to learn how to use it. That night, Miguel could barely sleep. His mind raced with images of the players he'd seen, their fluid movements, their lightning-quick thinking, their ability to make the impossible look effortless. For the first time in months, he felt something stirring inside him that felt like hope, but stronger. The next morning, Miguel woke up before dawn and crept onto the balcony with CJ's laptop. He spent hours studying the videos, rewatching crucial moments in slow motion, trying to understand the split-second decisions that separated good players from great ones. What are you doing, Mijo? His father asked, emerging onto the balcony with 2 steaming cups of café con leche. Learning, Miguel replied without taking his eyes off the screen. CJ showed me that being small doesn't mean being weak. It means being smart. Carlos Santos smiled as he handed his youngest son a cup. Carlos had been an amateur player himself in his youth, never professional level, but skilled enough to understand the beautiful game. He'd watched Miguel's struggles with a heavy heart, wanting to help but not knowing how. Show me what you're learning, Carlos said, settling into the chair beside his son. For the next hour, Miguel excitedly explained the concepts he was discovering. How smaller players used close ball control to navigate tight spaces. How they read the game differently, always thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. How their low center of gravity actually made them more agile than their larger counterparts. Carlos felt a surge of pride watching his son's animated explanation. This was the most focused he'd ever seen Miguel about anything. The scattered, dreamy boy was still there, but now that wandering mind had found something to latch onto, something to channel all that restless energy. You know what? Carlos said, standing up with sudden decision. I think it's time we got serious about this. What do you mean, Papa? Carlos walked to the balcony railing and gazed out at the morning sky, pink and orange like a painter's canvas. I mean, it's time we stopped letting you learn by getting knocked around by boys twice your size. It's time we started building you up properly. That evening, Carlos came home from work with a surprise that made Miguel's eyes go wide with wonder. Under his arm was a brand new soccer ball, not just any ball, but a proper match quality ball with perfect spherical shape and responsive touch. This is yours, Carlos said, placing the ball in Miguel's hands like he was passing along a precious family heirloom. But it comes with conditions. Miguel nodded eagerly, already imagining all the things he could do with such a perfect ball. First, Carlos held up one finger. Every morning before school we train. Just you and me. No distractions, no older boys knocking you around. Just pure skill development. Second, he held up another finger. You keep studying those videos, but you also study the game itself. You learn to read what's happening on the field before it happens. Third, Carlos's voice grew more serious, you never ever give up on yourself. Not when you're tired, not when you're frustrated, not when people tell you you're too small. Promise me. I promise, Papa, Miguel whispered, clutching the ball to his chest like a lifeline. Their first training session began the following morning at 6 a.m., when the neighborhood was still wrapped in the peaceful quiet of dawn. Carlos had marked out a small area in the empty lot behind their building, using stones and bottle caps to create boundaries and targets. We start with the fundamentals, Carlos explained, demonstrating a simple juggling technique. In soccer, your first touch is everything. It's the difference between keeping possession and losing the ball. Miguel watched intently as his father kept the ball in the air with seemingly effortless touches: right foot, left foot, thigh, chest, head. The ball seemed to dance around Carlos like it was attached by invisible strings. Now you try, but start simple. Just right foot to left foot, back and forth. Miguel's first attempts were disasters. The ball would cannon off his foot and sail away in random directions. His touches were too heavy, his balance was off, and frustration began to creep into his voice. Easy, Mijo, Carlos said gently, jogging to retrieve the wayward ball. Remember what you learned from those videos. The small players, they don't use power, they use precision. Carlos demonstrated again, this time in slow motion. See how I'm not kicking the ball? I'm caressing it. Like it's a soap bubble that I don't want to pop. The metaphor clicked something in Miguel's mind. He tried again, this time imagining the ball as something delicate and precious rather than something to be conquered. His touch became softer, more controlled. Better! Carlos clapped. Again! They spent 45 minutes that first morning just on ball control. Miguel's legs felt like rubber by the end, but his eyes were shining with excitement. He was starting to feel the ball responding to his intentions rather than flying off on its own adventure. Tomorrow we work on passing accuracy, Carlos promised as they walked home for breakfast. But remember, practice doesn't stop when our session ends. Carry that ball with you. Touch it whenever you can. Make it an extension of yourself. Miguel took this advice literally. The ball became his constant companion. He'd juggle it while waiting for the bus to school. He'd practice stepovers in the hallway during breaks. His teachers initially complained about the distraction, but even they had to admit that Miguel's focus and academic performance were improving along with his soccer skills. It's like he's found his center, observed Senora Rodriguez, his math teacher. That boy who used to stare out the window all day is now paying attention. His mind needed something to anchor it, and apparently that something is a soccer ball. Meanwhile, CJ became Miguel's video analysis coach. Every evening after dinner, they'd huddle around the laptop, dissecting professional matches with the intensity of military strategists planning a campaign. Look here, CJ would point at the screen. Watch how Iniesta positions his body. He's already facing where he wants to pass the ball before he even receives it. That's thinking 2 moves ahead. Miguel absorbed these lessons like a sponge soaking up water. His notebook filled with diagrams and observations. Use body feints to unbalance defenders. First touch should take you away from pressure. Look up early to scan for passing options. After 6 weeks of intensive morning training with his father, Miguel felt ready to test his improved skills in a real game. But instead of immediately rejoining the brutal pickup games with the older boys, Carlos had a different idea. I've been talking to Father Martinez, he said one Saturday morning. He's organizing a youth league for boys your age. Real games with referees and everything. But here's the interesting part, it's not just about winning. It's about development and fair play. Miguel's heart leaped like a trapped bird finding an open cage door. A chance to play with boys his own size and age, where skill and intelligence might matter more than size and strength. The first game of the season was scheduled for the following Sunday at the community center's field, a proper grass pitch with painted lines and actual goals with nets. Miguel had never played on anything so beautiful. As they walked to the field that Sunday morning, Miguel's stomach was a tornado of nerves and excitement. He wore his new cleats, a birthday present from his mother, and carried his ball like a talisman for good luck. Remember what we've practiced, Carlos said, his hand resting on Miguel's shoulder. You're not the same player who used to get knocked around by those big boys. You've got skills now. You've got knowledge. Most importantly, you've got confidence. The opposing team looked formidable as they warmed up. Several players were notably larger than Miguel, and their warm-up drills looked polished and professional. Miguel felt the familiar flutter of self-doubt in his chest. Then CJ jogged up beside him. Hey, Hermano, you know what I see when I look at those guys? Miguel shook his head. I see players who probably rely on size and power. But you know what they probably haven't spent hundreds of hours studying? Game intelligence, ball control, the ability to think faster than you can run. As if to prove CJ's point, Miguel watched one of the opposing players attempt a simple juggling warm-up and struggle to string together more than 3 touches. Meanwhile, Miguel could easily manage 50. You've got weapons they don't even know exist, CJ said with a grin. Go show them what real soccer looks like. The referee's whistle pierced the air like a battle horn and the game began. From the very first touch, Miguel could feel that something was different. The hours of practice with his father had rewired his relationship with the ball. Instead of chasing it desperately, he was commanding it. Instead of reacting to the game, he was reading it. In the 3rd minute, Miguel received a pass with his back to goal, an opponent breathing down his neck. 6 months ago, he would have panicked and lost the ball immediately. Instead, he used a technique he'd studied in countless videos, a subtle shoulder drop that made the defender commit to 1 SI, while Miguel spun the other way. Suddenly, he was free with space to look up and assess his options. He spotted a teammate making a run down the right wing and delivered a perfectly weighted pass that split the defense like a knife through butter. "Que passe!" shouted someone from the sideline. What a pass! Miguel felt a warm surge of confidence flow through his veins like liquid sunshine. This was what he'd been working toward, the moment when all the practice, all the study, all the morning sessions with his father would crystallize into actual performance. The game continued, and Miguel's influence grew with each passing minute. His touches were clean, his passing was precise, and his movement was intelligent. He wasn't the fastest player on the field, and he certainly wasn't the strongest, but he was consistently in the right place at the right time. In the 22nd minute, Miguel intercepted a lazy pass and found himself with a clear path to goal. Time seemed to slow down as he approached the penalty area. The goalkeeper, a tall boy who looked like he'd rather be playing basketball, started to charge off his line. Miguel remembered a clip CJ had shown him of a player in a similar situation. Instead of trying to power the ball past the keeper, the player had used a delicate chip shot that floated over the goalkeeper's outstretched hands and dropped gently into the net. With his heart hammering against his ribs like a caged bird, Miguel attempted the same technique. His foot barely touched the ball, sending it arcing through the air in a perfect parabola. The goalkeeper scrambled backward desperately, but the ball dropped just under the crossbar and nestled into the back of the net. Goal. Miguel's first competitive goal. The celebration that followed was pure joy distilled into human form. His teammates mobbed him, his parents cheered from the sideline, and even some of the neutral spectators applauded. But through all the excitement, Miguel caught sight of his father's face beaming with pride that could have powered the entire neighborhood. The game ended 2-1 in Miguel's team's favor, with Miguel providing the assist for the winning goal in the final minutes. As the players shook hands after the match, several opponents complimented Miguel on his performance. "You're really good," said the opposing team's captain, a boy who'd been completely mystified by Miguel's movement throughout the game. "Have you been playing long?" "All my life," Miguel answered with that radiant smile. "But I only recently learned how to play smart." That night, the Santos family celebrated with Miguel's favorite meal, his mother's homemade tamales and fresh fruit agua fresca. As they sat around their small kitchen table, Carlos raised his glass of juice in a toast to Miguel, who proved today that heart and hard work can overcome any obstacle. "And to Papa," Miguel added, raising his own glass, "for showing me that the size of your dreams matters more than the size of your body." Word of Miguel's performance spread quickly through the neighborhood. Suddenly, the boy who had been dismissed as too small was being recognized as one of the most promising young players in the local league. But Miguel's journey was far from over. If anything, this first taste of success made him hungrier for improvement. He approached his training with even greater intensity, spending hours perfecting techniques he'd seen in professional matches. Carlos noticed the change in his son's dedication and decided it was time to expand Miguel's training beyond their backyard sessions. He reached out to his old friend Roberto Martinez, who coached at a youth academy across town. "I've got a boy you need to see," Carlos told Roberto over coffee one afternoon. "He's small, but he's got something special." Roberto, a weathered man with kind eyes who had spent 30 years developing young players, was initially skeptical. He'd heard similar claims from countless parents convinced their sons were the next Pelé. "Bring him by on Saturday," Roberto said politely. "We'll see what he can do." When Saturday arrived, Miguel was so nervous he could barely eat breakfast. The academy was in a completely different part of the city, an area where the fields were perfectly maintained and the facilities looked professional enough to host international matches. As they walked through the academy gates, Miguel felt like he was entering a cathedral of soccer. Boys his age and older were training on multiple fields under the watchful eyes of qualified coaches. The sound of balls being struck cleanly and coaches shouting tactical instructions filled the air like a symphony. "Remember," Carlos whispered to his son as they approached the main training field, "you belong here. Your size is not your limitation, it's your advantage." Roberto emerged from a group of coaches, a stopwatch hanging around his neck and a clipboard in his hand. He looked Miguel up and down with the practiced eye of someone who had evaluated thousands of young players. "So you're the boy your father thinks is special," Roberto said with a slight smile. "Let's see what you've got. Join these boys for a small-sided scrimmage." Miguel nodded and jogged toward a group of players warming up for a 4v4 game. As he joined them, he quickly realized that the level of play here was significantly higher than anything he'd experienced in the local league. These boys moved with the confidence and technique of players who had been properly coached for years. The scrimmage began, and Miguel immediately found himself under pressure unlike anything he'd faced before. These players didn't just rely on size or speed, they had real technical ability and tactical awareness. For the first few minutes, Miguel struggled to adjust to the pace. His touches felt heavy, his passes were intercepted, and he found himself chasing the game rather than controlling it. From the sideline, Roberto shook his head slightly. Another parent with unrealistic expectations about their child's abilities. But then something clicked for Miguel. He stopped trying to match the other player's style and started playing his own game. He began using his close control to draw players out of position, creating space for his teammates. His passing became more adventurous, finding angles that others couldn't see. In the 6th minute of the scrimmage, Miguel received the ball in a crowded area near the penalty box. He was surrounded by 3 defenders with seemingly no way out. But instead of panicking, he used a move he'd perfected in his backyard training sessions, a quick step over followed by a nutmeg that left one defender completely wrong-footed. Suddenly, he was through on goal. The shot was pure instinct, a low drive toward the far corner that the goalkeeper had no chance of reaching. As the ball nestled in the net, the other players stopped and looked at each other with surprise. Where had that come from? Roberto's eyebrows shot up. He'd seen thousands of young players, and he knew raw talent when he saw it. This small boy had something that couldn't be taught, an intuitive understanding of space and timing that separated good players from potentially great ones. "Do that again," Roberto called out, his voice carrying a note of interest that hadn't been there before. The scrimmage continued, and Miguel grew in confidence with each touch. He scored twice more and assisted on another goal, but it wasn't just the statistics that impressed Roberto. It was the way Miguel saw the game development before it happened, the way he made his teammates better through his positioning and passing. After the session ended, Roberto pulled Carlos aside while Miguel cooled down with the other players. "Your boy has something special," Roberto admitted. "His technical level isn't quite up to our standards yet, but his understanding of the game is remarkable for his age. More importantly, he has the right mentality, he doesn't let setbacks discourage him." Carlos felt his chest swell with pride, but he tried to keep his expression neutral. "What are you saying exactly?" "I'm saying we'd like to offer Miguel a place in our academy program. It's a significant commitment, training 4 times per week, matches on weekends, and a lot of hard work. But if he's willing to dedicate himself, we think he could develop into something special." Carlos looked across the field at Miguel, who was juggling a ball while chatting with some of the other academy players. His son looked happier and more confident than he'd ever seen him. "We'll need to discuss it as a family," Carlos said, though he already knew what the answer would be. That evening, the Santos family held their most important conference ever. Miguel sat at the kitchen table, his eyes bright with excitement as his parents explained the academy's offer. "It means a lot more training," Elena said, her voice carrying both pride and concern. a lot more time away from home, and no guarantee of success. But it also means a real chance to develop your talent properly, Carlos added. With professional coaches and proper facilities. Miguel didn't hesitate. I want to do it. This is what I've been working toward, isn't it? All those morning training sessions, all those hours watching videos with CJ, it was all preparing for this moment. CJ, who had been quietly listening from the doorway, stepped forward. I think you should go for it, Hermanito. But remember, this is just the beginning. The real work starts now. Miguel nodded solemnly. He understood that joining the academy meant stepping up to a completely different level of commitment and competition. But he also knew that this was his chance to find out just how far his dreams could take him. His first day at the academy was both thrilling and intimidating. The other players were clearly talented, and many had been training in professional environments since they were very young. Miguel felt like he was trying to join a conversation that had been going on for years without him. The head coach, Fernando Valdez, was a former professional player whose stern manner and exacting standards quickly separated the serious players from the casual ones. Talent alone is not enough here, he told the assembled players during Miguel's first team meeting. Talent without dedication is just wasted potential. Talent without intelligence is just athletic ability. What we're looking for are players who can combine talent, work ethic, and football intelligence into something greater than the sum of its parts. Miguel felt like those words were directed specifically at him. He might not have been the most naturally gifted player in the room, but he was determined to work harder than anyone else. Training sessions were intense beyond anything Miguel had previously experienced. Where his father had focused on individual skills development, the academy emphasized tactical awareness, positional play, and reading the game at a much more sophisticated level. Soccer is chess, not checkers, Coach Valdez would say repeatedly. Every move you make should be part of a larger plan. Every touch of the ball should have a purpose. Miguel struggled initially with the complexity of the tactical concepts. His natural tendency was to rely on instinct and individual skill, but the academy system required him to think more systematically about his role within the team structure. Through 2 weeks of training, Miguel was beginning to doubt whether he belonged at the academy. His confidence, which had grown so steadily throughout the previous months, started to waver in the face of constant correction and adjustment from the coaches. I don't think I'm good enough, he confided to CJ one evening as they worked on homework together. The other players understand things that seem completely foreign to me. CJ looked up from his own schoolwork. Do you remember when you first started juggling with Papa? How frustrated you got when the ball kept flying away. Miguel nodded. But you didn't quit then. You kept practicing until juggling became as natural as walking. This is the same thing, just at a higher level. CJ pulled out his laptop and opened a video of Miguel's first academy scrimmage, which Carlos had recorded from the sideline. Watch yourself here, he said, pointing to a moment where Miguel made a clever pass that led to a scoring opportunity. That's not luck or accident. That's you reading the game and making smart decisions under pressure. As Miguel watched the video, he began to see what CJ meant. Even in moments where he felt lost or confused, his instincts were often correct. His problem wasn't ability, it was confidence. The other players have been learning these concepts for years, CJ continued. You've been learning them for weeks. Give yourself time to catch up. This conversation proved to be a turning point for Miguel. Instead of being discouraged by his temporary confusion, he threw himself into studying the tactical aspects of the game with the same intensity he'd once applied to ball control. He borrowed soccer books from the library, watched professional matches with a notebook in hand, and pestered CJ with questions about positional play and team tactics. His room became covered with diagrams showing different formation and movement patterns. Gradually, the complex tactical concepts began to make sense. Miguel started to understand why certain runs were more effective than others, how to position himself to receive passes in tight spaces, and when to press aggressively versus when to maintain defensive shape. 6 weeks into his academy training, Miguel had his breakthrough moment during a scrimmage against another youth team. His team was struggling to break down a well-organized defense when Miguel noticed something that others had missed. The opposing team's right back was consistently leaving a small gap between himself and the center back when defending set pieces. It was a tiny space, barely noticeable, but Miguel saw it as clearly as if it were marked with paint. During a corner kick, instead of following the predetermined play pattern, Miguel made a run into that exact space. The ball found him perfectly, and he was able to score with a simple tap in that looked much easier than it actually was. Coach Valdez pulled Miguel aside after the game. That goal you scored, that wasn't luck, was it? Miguel shook his head. I noticed the gap in their defensive shape during the previous corner kick and positioned myself to exploit it. The coach's stern expression cracked into what might have been the beginning of a smile. That's exactly the kind of game intelligence we're looking for. You're starting to understand that soccer is as much about what happens between your ears as what happens with your feet. From that point forward, Miguel's development accelerated rapidly. His combination of technical skill, tactical awareness, and relentless work ethic made him one of the standout players in his age group. But perhaps more importantly, Miguel was becoming a leader on the field. His teammates began to look to him for guidance during matches, trusting his reading of the game and his ability to make quick decisions under pressure. Leadership isn't about being the biggest or the strongest, Coach Valdez explained to Miguel during one of their individual meetings. It's about seeing things that others miss and helping your teammates recognize them too. Miguel took this lesson to heart. He began communicating more actively during training sessions and matches, calling out tactical adjustments and helping younger players understand their roles. His confidence grew with each passing month, but it was a different kind of confidence than what he'd felt during his early success in the local league. This was quieter, more mature, the confidence of a player who understood not just his own abilities but also his responsibilities to the team. Carlos watched his son's transformation with amazement and pride. The scattered, unfocused boy who used to stare out classroom windows had become a dedicated student of the game, someone who approached each training session with purpose and each match with tactical intelligence. "He's not the same player who joined the academy," Roberto observed to Carlos during one of their conversations at the academy. "But more than that, he's not the same boy. This sport has given him structure, purpose, and confidence that extends beyond the football field." Indeed, Miguel's academic performance had improved dramatically since joining the academy. The discipline and focus required for high-level soccer training had translated into better study habits and classroom attention. His teachers reported that he was more engaged and responsible than ever before. As Miguel entered his second year at the academy, new challenges emerged. He was no longer the new player trying to find his place now, he was expected to help set the standard for others to follow. Competition for spots on the elite team intensified as more talented players joined the academy. Miguel found himself fighting not just to improve but to maintain his position among the top players in his age group. "This is where championships are won and lost," Coach Valdez told the players during a particularly intense training session. "Not on the field during matches, but right here during training when nobody's watching except your teammates and coaches." Miguel embraced this philosophy completely. He arrived early to training sessions to work on individual skills, stayed late to practice set pieces, and spent his free time analyzing match footage to identify areas for improvement. His dedication didn't go unnoticed by his teammates, who began to rely on him not just for his on-field contributions but also for his work ethic and positive attitude. "Miguel makes everyone around him better," observed David, one of Miguel's closest friends at the academy. "Not just because he's talented, but because he shows us what's possible when you really commit to improving." This reputation for dedication and improvement caught the attention of scouts from professional clubs who regularly monitored the academy's progress. Miguel's name began appearing on lists of promising young players to watch. But Miguel's family was careful not to get ahead of themselves. Carlos had seen too many young players become distracted by early recognition, losing focus on the daily work of improvement. "Scouts and recognition are nice," Carlos told his son after learning about the professional interest. "But they don't score goals or make passes. Only your preparation and performance on the field matter." Miguel nodded, understanding that his father's words came from wisdom and love. He had learned to measure his success not by outside recognition, but by his own standards of excellence and improvement. As his second year at the academy progressed, Miguel faced his biggest test yet: selection for the regional tournament team that would compete against the best young players from across the country. Competition was fierce. Only 18 players would be selected from an academy program that included over 60 players in Miguel's age group. The selection process would involve weeks of intensive evaluation, including technical assessments, tactical tests, and match performance analysis. Miguel approached the selection period with typical determination, but also with a maturity that surprised even himself. Instead of focusing solely on his own performance, he concentrated on helping his teammates succeed as well, understanding that individual success meant nothing without team achievement. During the selection matches, Miguel's performance was consistently excellent, but it was his leadership and game intelligence that truly set him apart. In crucial moments, he made the right decisions, found the right passes, and helped his teammates perform at their highest level. When the final roster was announced, Miguel's name was not only included, he was named as the team captain, an honor typically reserved for the most experienced and respected players. Leadership isn't just about skill, Coach Valdez explained to Miguel after announcing the selection. It's about character, work ethic, and the ability to bring out the best in others. You've demonstrated all of those qualities. Miguel felt a surge of pride but also a weight of responsibility. Being captain meant representing not just himself but his entire academy, his family, and his community. The regional tournament was scheduled to take place over a long weekend in the capital city. Miguel's first trip to a major urban center and his first time competing against players from the most elite academies in the country. As the team bus pulled into the tournament complex, Miguel was awed by the scale and professionalism of the event. Multiple fields hosted simultaneous matches while scouts from professional clubs watched from designated areas, their notebooks and cameras capturing every significant moment. Remember, Coach Valdez told the team as they prepared for their first match, you're here because you've earned it. Play your game, trust your preparation, and support each other. Miguel's first match at the regional tournament was against a team from the capital city's most prestigious academy. Their players looked polished and confident, warming up with complex technical drills that looked more like performance art than soccer preparation. As the teams lined up for the opening kickoff, Miguel caught sight of his family in the stands. Carlos had taken time off work, Elena had arranged childcare for their neighbors' children, and CJ had skipped his own team's training to be there. The sight of their supportive faces filled Miguel with calm confidence. Win or lose, he was representing everything they had sacrificed to help him reach this moment. The match began with intense pressure from the opposing team. They pressed high, moved the ball quickly, and clearly intended to overwhelm Miguel's team with technical superiority and tactical sophistication. For the first 15 minutes, Miguel's team was pinned back, struggling to maintain possession and create any meaningful attacking opportunities. The opposing crowd grew louder, sensing their team's dominance. But Miguel had learned to read games at a deeper level. He could see that the opposing team's high-pressure approach, while effective initially, was also leaving spaces that could be exploited with patient, intelligent play. During a brief stoppage for an injury, Miguel gathered his teammates. They're pressing hard because they want to finish the game early, he said, his voice calm and clear. But look how much space they're leaving behind their midfield. If we can just be patient with our passing, we'll find opportunities. His teammates nodded, trusting Miguel's tactical analysis. When play resumed, they began to implement his suggested approach: patient passing, drawing the opponents forward, then quick switches of play to exploit the spaces behind their aggressive pressure. Tactical adjustment worked perfectly. In the 23rd minute, Miguel received a pass under pressure in his own half. Instead of rushing a clearance, he took a calm touch and picked out a precise pass to a teammate making a run down the right wing. The move led to their first real scoring chance, and while they didn't score, Miguel could see the doubt beginning to creep into their opponents' expressions. 5 minutes later, the breakthrough came. Miguel intercepted a lazy pass in midfield and immediately recognized that the opposing team was out of defensive shape. With a perfectly weighted through ball, he found his striker in a one-on-one situation with the goalkeeper. The goal was scored, and Miguel's tactical reading of the game had been vindicated. His teammates celebrated, but Miguel was already thinking about the next phase of the match. The opposing team responded by intensifying their pressure even more, throwing additional players forward in search of an equalizer. But this played directly into Miguel's tactical trap. The more they committed to attack, the more space they left for counterattacks. Miguel scored the second goal himself in the 68th minute, finishing a lightning-quick counterattack with a calm side foot finish that demonstrated both technical skill and mental composure under pressure. The match ended 2-0, with Miguel being named player of the match by the tournament officials. But more satisfying than individual recognition was seeing his teammates' confidence grow with each passing minute of the victory. "That's how you play intelligent soccer," Coach Valdez said to Miguel after the match. "You didn't try to match their style, you imposed your own style and forced them to react to you." The tournament continued for 3 more days, with Miguel's team advancing through each round with increasingly impressive performances. Miguel's leadership and tactical awareness became the foundation around which the entire team's success was built. In the tournament final, they faced a team that had dominated their regional competition for 3 consecutive years. The opposing players were larger, faster, and more experienced in high-pressure situations. But Miguel had learned that soccer wasn't just about physical attributes, it was about intelligence, preparation, and mental strength. Minutes before the final kickoff, as Miguel led his team through their warm-up routine, he spotted someone familiar in the stands. Roberto Martinez, his old academy director, had made the trip to watch the final. Catching Miguel's eye, Roberto gave him a small nod and a thumbs up, a simple gesture that conveyed years of training, encouragement, and belief. The final W. As everything Miguel had hoped, it would be intense, competitive, and requiring every ounce of skill and determination his team could muster. The opposing team scored first, capitalizing on a defensive mistake to take an early lead. Miguel watched his teammates' shoulders slump slightly, the weight of the deficit and the pressure of the final taking its toll. This was when true leadership mattered most. Miguel gathered his team during the next stoppage in play. "Listen to me," he said, looking each teammate in the eye. "They scored 1 goal. That's all. We've come back from deficits before, and we're going to do it again." His voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who had faced adversity and overcome it repeatedly. "Play our game. Trust our preparation. And remember, we're here because we deserve to be here." The psychological impact of Miguel's words was immediate. His teammates stood taller, their passes became crisper, and their movement more purposeful. Miguel equalized in the 35th minute with a goal that perfectly demonstrated everything he had learned over the previous 2 years. Receiving the ball with his back to goal, he used his close control to turn his defender, created space with a subtle body feint, and finished with a precise shot into the far corner. The goal was technical skill combined with tactical intelligence and mental composure, the complete package of a mature player. The match remained tied through regulation time, requiring extra time to determine the champion. As the players took a brief rest before the additional 30 minutes, Miguel could see fatigue in both teams. This was when mental strength would separate the winners from the runners-up. 30 more minutes, he told his teammates. 30 minutes between us and being regional champions. How badly do you want it? The response was unanimous and determined. They wanted it more than they had ever wanted anything. Extra time was a battle of willpower as much as skill. Both teams created chances, both teams made crucial defensive plays, and both teams pushed their physical limits. With just 3 minutes remaining, Miguel found himself in possession near the penalty area with the score still tied. A defender approached aggressively, trying to force a mistake that would give his team possession and a chance to counterattack. Miguel had faced this exact situation hundreds of times in training. Instead of trying to beat the defender with pace or power, he used intelligence and technique. A quick step over sold the defender on one direction while Miguel moved the other way, creating just enough space to deliver a cross toward the penalty spot where his teammate was arriving perfectly. The header found the net, and Miguel's assist had delivered the regional championship. The celebration that followed was pure joy multiplied by years of hard work and sacrifice. Miguel's teammates lifted him on their shoulders while his family cheered from the stands and coaches embraced on the sideline. But even in the moment of triumph, Miguel was already thinking about what came next. The regional championship was wonderful, but it was also just another step toward his ultimate dream of becoming a professional player. As the medals were distributed and photos were taken, Miguel caught sight of several men in professional club blazers taking notes and speaking quietly among themselves. Scouts from professional academies were watching, and his performance in the tournament had clearly made an impression. After the ceremony, Coach Valdez pulled Miguel aside for a private conversation. "There are going to be opportunities coming your way," he said seriously. "Professional academies are interested in your development. But remember, opportunity without preparation is just luck. And luck doesn't last." Miguel nodded, understanding the weight of his coach's words. He had learned that success required not just talent but also character, work ethic, and the ability to handle both triumph and setback with equal composure. The ride home from the tournament was quiet, with Miguel staring out the bus window at the landscape passing by. So much had changed since that first day when he'd been knocked around by older boys in neighborhood pickup games. But the most important change wasn't in his soccer ability, it was in his understanding of himself and his potential. He had learned that size and strength were just two variables in the complex equation of athletic success. Intelligence, determination, and character could overcome almost any physical disadvantage. 2 weeks after the regional tournament, the call came that would change Miguel's life forever. Carlos answered the phone during dinner, speaking in the formal tone he used for important conversations. Miguel continued eating, but he could sense the significance of the call by the way his father's expression changed. After hanging up, Carlos sat quietly for a moment before speaking. "That was SC Internacional," he said slowly. "One of the biggest professional clubs in the country. They want to invite Miguel to train with their youth academy." The silence that followed was complete. Elena's fork stopped halfway to her mouth, CJ's eyes widened, and Miguel felt his heart begin to race. FC Internacional wasn't just any professional club, they were a team that competed at the highest levels of national and international competition. Their academy was known throughout South America as a developer of world-class talent. "It's just a trial," Carlos said carefully. "Nothing is guaranteed." But they were impressed by your tournament performance and want to see how you develop in their environment. Miguel's mind raced with possibilities and concerns. Joining Internacional would mean leaving home, moving to a dormitory with other academy players, and stepping up to an even more competitive environment. But it would also mean training with the best coaches, learning from the most talented players, and having a real chance at a professional career. "When would I start?" Miguel asked quietly. "Next month if we decide to accept their offer." The family spent the evening discussing the opportunity from every angle. The sacrifices would be significant: less time together as a family, more pressure and competition, and no guarantee of ultimate success. But they also recognized that this was exactly what Miguel had been working toward for the past 2 years. Every morning training session with his father, every hour spent analyzing professional matches with CJ, every challenging moment at the academy, it had all been preparation for this opportunity. "What do you think, Mijo?" Elena asked her son as they sat together on the balcony where he had first discovered his love for tactical analysis. Miguel looked out at the neighborhood field where he had once been overwhelmed by bigger, stronger players. Now that same field looked small, like something he had outgrown. "I think I'm ready," he said with quiet confidence. "Not because I know I'll succeed, but because I know I'll give everything I have to the opportunity." Carlos smiled at his son's mature response. The boy who had once lacked focus and direction had become a young man with clear goals and the determination to achieve them. 3 weeks later, Miguel packed his belongings into 2 suitcases and prepared to begin the next chapter of his journey. The night before leaving, the family held a celebration dinner with extended relatives and friends from the neighborhood. As Miguel looked around the table at all the people who had supported his dreams, he felt overwhelmed with gratitude. His success hadn't been achieved alone, it had been built on the foundation of family love, community support, and the guidance of coaches who believed in his potential. "I want to thank everyone for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself," Miguel said, standing to address the gathering. "Everything I achieve from now on, I achieve because of what all of you have given me." The room was quiet except for the sound of Elena wiping tears from her eyes. "But this isn't the end of anything," Miguel continued. "It's just the beginning. And I promise you that I'll work every day to make you proud and to represent everything you've taught me about persistence, character, and never giving up on your dreams." The journey to Internacional's academy was both exciting and nerve-wracking. Miguel had never been away from his family for more than a few days, and now he was moving several hours away for an indefinite period. But as the bus pulled into the academy complex, Miguel felt the same sense of awe and possibility he'd experienced at his first academy trial. The facilities were world-class, with multiple training fields, dormitories, classrooms for academic studies, and even a small stadium for important matches. His dormitory roommate was Carlos Silva, a midfielder from the northern part of the country who had joined Internacional 6 months earlier. Carlos was friendly but also serious about his development, which immediately put Miguel at ease. "The training here is intense," Carlos warned Miguel as they unpacked his belongings. "These coaches don't accept anything less than your absolute best. But if you're willing to work, you'll improve faster than you ever thought possible." Miguel's first training session at Internacional was a humbling experience. Pace was faster, the technical demands higher, and the tactical concepts more complex than anything he had previously encountered. But instead of being discouraged, Miguel felt energized by the challenge. This was the level he needed to reach, and being surrounded by players who operated at this level would force him to elevate his own game. Coach Martinez, Internacional's youth development director, was a former professional player who had competed in World Cups and won league championships as a player. His standards were exacting, and his feedback was delivered with the directness of someone who understood what separated good players from great ones. "You have good foundations," he told Miguel after his first week of training. "Your technical skills are adequate, and your game intelligence is above average for your age. But you'll need to improve your physical conditioning and learn to compete consistently at this intense 2I level." Miguel accepted the feedback gratefully. He had learned that criticism from qualified coaches was actually a gift. It showed them where to focus their improvement efforts. Over the following months, Miguel threw himself into the Internacional development program with characteristic determination. He worked extra hours on physical conditioning, studied the professional teams' matches to understand tactical concepts, and constantly sought feedback from coaches and older players. His development accelerated rapidly in this environment. Training alongside players who were technically superior forced him to raise his own technical level. Competing for positions against ambitious, talented players pushed him to perform consistently rather than just occasionally. Most importantly, Miguel learned to view setbacks and challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. When he struggled with the pace of training, he worked harder to improve his fitness. When he made tactical mistakes, he studied until he understood the correct decisions. His progress caught the attention of the academy's senior coaches, who began including him in training sessions with slightly older age groups. This exposure to higher-level competition continued to accelerate his development. 6 months into his time at Internacional, Miguel received news that made him appreciate how far he had traveled from those early days of being knocked around by neighborhood teenagers. Coach Martinez called him into his office after a particularly successful training session. "We've been monitoring your progress carefully," the coach said, his expression serious but not unfriendly. "Your development has been impressive, particularly your ability to adapt to higher levels of competition." Miguel waited quietly, sensing that something significant was coming. "We'd like to include you in our squad for the National Youth Tournament next month. It's a step up in competition level, but we believe you're ready for the challenge." Selection for the National Youth Tournament meant competing against the best players from academies throughout the country. It also meant exposure to scouts from international clubs and potentially national team coaches. Miguel felt the familiar flutter of excitement and nerves, but this time it was balanced by confidence earned through months of intensive preparation. "Thank you for the opportunity, coach," he said. I'll work harder than ever to prove that your confidence is justified. Coach Martinez smiled slightly. I don't have any doubts about your work ethic, Miguel. What I want to see is whether you can maintain your performance level when the pressure increases and the competition becomes more intense. The National Youth Tournament was scheduled to take place during school holidays, allowing Miguel's family to attend several of the matches. Having his support system present felt like receiving additional strength and courage. The opening match was against defending champions from the Capital District Academy, a team loaded with players who had already attracted attention from European clubs. As Miguel warmed up before the match, he spotted his family in the stands wearing Internacional jerseys with his name and number. The sight filled him with determination to perform not just for himself, but for everyone who had sacrificed to help him reach this moment. The match was fierce from the opening whistle, with both teams demonstrating the technical skill and tactical awareness that had earned them spots in the national tournament. Miguel's role in the team was to provide creativity and game intelligence from central midfield, using his passing ability and vision to create scoring opportunities for his teammates. In the 18th minute, he had his first significant moment of the match. Receiving a pass under pressure from two defenders, Miguel used a combination of close control and body movement to create space, then delivered a through ball that split the defense and created a clear scoring chance. His teammate's shot was saved, but Miguel's pass had announced his presence at this level of competition. The match remained scoreless through halftime, with both teams creating chances but failing to find the crucial breakthrough. In the locker room, Coach Martinez addressed the team with calm intensity. "This is what we've prepared for," he said. "These moments when games are decided by small margins and individual moments of quality. Trust your preparation, trust your teammates, and take responsibility for making the difference." Miguel felt those words resonate deeply. He had reached the point in his development where he wasn't just hoping to survive at this level, he was expected to influence outcomes and help his team succeed. The second half began with increased intensity from both teams. Miguel found himself involved in nearly every significant attacking move, his passing range and vision creating problems for the opposing defense. In the 67th minute, he scored his first goal at national tournament level. The goal developed from a situation that perfectly demonstrated Miguel's evolution as a player. Nacional won possession in their defensive third, and Miguel received the ball with his back to goal, under pressure from two opponents. Instead of simply passing the ball safely to a teammate, Miguel used his improved strength and technique to shield the ball while scanning for opportunities. He spotted a teammate making a run behind the defense and delivered a perfectly weighted pass that created a 2-on-1 situation. When the ball was crossed back to Miguel, he was arriving perfectly at the penalty spot, timing his run to arrive just as the ball reached him. His finish was calm and precise, the strike of a player who belonged at this level. The goal celebration was memorable not just for Miguel, but for everyone who had supported his journey. Carlos jumped from his seat in celebration, Elena wept with pride, and even CJ, who rarely showed emotion, stood and applauded with tears in his eyes. Internacional won the match 2-0, with Miguel providing the assist for the second goal, and his performance earned recognition from national team scouts who were monitoring the tournament. After the match, several reporters approached Miguel for interviews, his first experience with media attention. How does it feel to score at this level? Asked one reporter. Miguel considered the question carefully before answering. It feels like proof that hard work and persistence can overcome any limitation you might have. 3 years ago, I was getting knocked around by teenagers in pickup games. Today I scored in a national tournament. The difference isn't magic, it's preparation. His mature response impressed the reporters, who were accustomed to young players giving cliched answers about being happy to help the team. The tournament continued for 10 days, with Miguel's performances becoming consistently excellent. His combination of technical skill, tactical intelligence, and leadership made him one of the standout players in his age group. In the tournament final, Internacional faced São Paulo Academy, a team that included several players who had already signed professional contracts with major clubs. The match was played in front of nearly 10,000 spectators, including scouts from European clubs and coaches from various national teams. Miguel had never played in front of such a large crowd, but instead of being intimidated, he felt inspired by the energy and atmosphere. The final was scoreless through 90 minutes of regular time, requiring extra time to determine the champion. Both teams had created chances, but crucial saves and defensive interventions had kept the match level. As the teams prepared for extra time, Miguel gathered his teammates for one final motivational message. 30 minutes, he said, echoing words he had spoken before another crucial match months earlier. 30 minutes between us and being national champions. How badly do we want it? The response was immediate and passionate. They wanted it more than anything. Extra time was played at a pace that pushed both teams to their physical and mental limits. Every touch mattered, every decision carried weight, and every player was required to perform at their absolute peak. In the 113th minute, Miguel created the goal that won the championship. Receiving the ball in a crowded midfield area, he recognized that São Paulo's defenders were tired and their concentration was beginning to waver. Instead of playing a safe pass, he attempted a through ball that required perfect timing and execution. Pass split 3 defenders and found his striker in a one-on-one situation with the goalkeeper. The finish was clinical, and Internacional had won the National Youth Championship. Miguel's assist was the result of everything he had learned over 4 years of dedicated development: technical skill, tactical awareness, physical preparation, and mental toughness, all combining at the crucial moment. The celebration that followed was overwhelming in its emotion and significance. Miguel had not just won a national championship, he had established himself as one of the most promising young players in the country. As the medals were presented and photos were taken, Miguel caught sight of his father in the stands. Carlos was crying openly, remembering the small boy who had once been intimidated by teenage pickup games. After the ceremony, several men in suits approached Miguel and his family. They were representatives from major European clubs, interested in discussing Miguel's future development. But Miguel had learned to handle success with the same composure he had developed for handling setbacks. "I'm honored by the interest," he told the representatives politely. "But I'm committed to completing my development at Internacional first. When the time is right for the next step, we'll consider all options carefully." His mature response impressed everyone present. This was not just a talented player but a young man with character and perspective. The months following the national championship brought new challenges and opportunities. Miguel was promoted to Internacional's reserve team, training regularly with professional players and occasionally appearing in official matches. His first professional appearance came during a cup match against lower division opposition. Coach Martinez decided to give several youth players experience, and Miguel was selected for the bench. In the 78th minute, with Internacional leading comfortably, Miguel received his first taste of professional soccer. "Remember," Coach Martinez told him as he prepared to enter the match, "this is just the beginning. Play your game and enjoy the moment." Miguel's 12 minutes of professional soccer were everything he had dreamed they would be. Pace was faster and the technical level higher than anything he had experienced, but he felt ready for the challenge. He completed 4 passes, made 1 tackle, and nearly assisted a goal with a clever through ball in the match's final minutes. After the match, the professional players welcomed Miguel with the respect accorded to someone who had earned his opportunity through talent and hard work. "You looked comfortable out there," commented the team captain, a veteran player who had competed in World Cups. "Keep working and you'll be playing regularly sooner than you think." Miguel's initial professional experience confirmed what coaches and scouts had been observing. He possessed not just the technical skills necessary for professional soccer, but also the mental toughness and maturity required to succeed at the highest levels. Over the following months, Miguel's appearances with the reserve team became more frequent, and his performances continued to improve. By age 17, he was training regularly with Internacional's first team and being mentioned in newspapers as one of the country's most promising young players. The attention was flattering, but Miguel had learned to maintain focus on continuous improvement rather than external recognition. "Awards and articles don't score goals," he would tell younger players at the academy. "Only preparation and performance matter when you step on the field." His 18th birthday brought the opportunity he had been working towards since that first day of training with his father, a professional contract with SC Internacional. Contract signing took place in the club's boardroom, with Miguel surrounded by his family, coaches, and club officials. As he signed his name to the document, Miguel reflected on the incredible journey that had brought him to this moment. 4 years earlier, he had been an unfocused boy who couldn't compete with teenagers in pickup games. Now he was a professional soccer player with one of the country's most prestigious clubs. "This is just the beginning," Miguel said during the brief ceremony. "I'm grateful for this opportunity, but I know that the real work starts now." His first season as a professional brought both challenges and achievements. Miguel made 15 appearances for Internacional's first team, scoring 3 goals and providing 7 assists. More importantly, he established himself as a reliable performer at the professional level, someone coaches could count on to maintain his performance standards regardless of the situation. During the season, Miguel received his first call-up to the national youth team, representing his country in international competition for the first time. The experience of wearing his national team jersey was overwhelming in its emotional significance. Miguel thought about all the people who had contributed to his journey: his father's early morning training sessions, his brother's video analysis, his mother's unwavering support, and all the coaches who had believed in his potential. His international debut came against a strong Brazilian youth team, and Miguel assisted the winning goal with a precise cross that demonstrated his continued development as a creative player. After the match, the national team coach pulled Miguel aside for a private conversation. "You have the potential to be a regular with the senior national team," he said. "Your technical ability is excellent, but what impresses me most is your maturity and game intelligence. Keep developing, and you'll be representing your country at the highest levels." Miguel's second professional season brought even greater success. He became a regular starter for Internacional, making 31 appearances and establishing himself as one of the club's key creative players. His performances attracted attention from European clubs, with several major teams expressing interest in acquiring his services. But Miguel had learned the importance of timing and patience in career development. Instead of rushing toward European soccer, he decided to continue his development at Internacional for one more season. "There will be time for Europe when I'm truly ready," he explained to his family during one of their regular conversations. "Right now, I'm still learning and improving every day." Miguel's third professional season was his breakthrough campaign. He scored 12 goals and provided 18 assists, leading Internacional to both the league championship and cup victory. His performances earned him recognition as the league's Young Player of the Year and a call up to the senior national team. Making his senior international debut at age 20 was another dreamlike moment for Miguel. As he stood in the tunnel before the match, wearing his country's jersey and preparing to compete against some of the world's best players, he remembered being that small boy who felt overwhelmed by neighborhood pickup games. Transformation wasn't just physical, though. Miguel had grown and strengthened considerably, but mental and emotional. He had developed the confidence and character necessary to perform at the highest levels of soccer. His international debut was successful, with Miguel providing an assist in a victory over a traditional South American rival. After the match, the senior national team coach praised Miguel's composure and maturity. "He plays like someone who has been at this level for years," the coach said. "His understanding of the game and ability to make quick decisions under pressure are exceptional for someone his age." Following his successful senior international debut, European clubs intensified their interest in Miguel. After careful consideration with his family and advisors, Miguel decided the time was right to make the move to European soccer. He signed with a major Spanish club that had a reputation for developing young players and providing opportunities for growth and advancement. The move to Europe represented another major step in Miguel's journey. Living in a different country with a different language and soccer culture required the same adaptability and determination he had used throughout his career. His European debut came in a Champions League match against one of England's biggest clubs. As Miguel walked onto the field for warm-ups, he thought about how far he had traveled from those early days of struggling in neighborhood games. The match was broadcasted internationally, and back home in his neighborhood, families gathered to watch Miguel represent his club on one of soccer's biggest stages. Carlos watched with tears in his eyes as his son lined up for the opening kickoff. Elena held CJ's hand as they observed Miguel's confident body language and professional demeanor. "Look at him," Carlos whispered to his wife. "Do you remember when he was so small that older boys would knock him over without trying? Miguel's European debut was everything he had dreamed it would be. He played with the confidence and skill that had brought him to this level, providing an assist in his team's victory. After the match, Miguel participated in his first international press conference, answering questions in 3 languages about his performance and his unlikely journey to European soccer. "My story shows that talent alone isn't enough," Miguel told the assembled reporters. "Success requires persistence, hard work, family support, and the willingness to keep improving even when things seem impossible." The reporters were impressed by Miguel's maturity and perspective. Here was a young player who understood that his success was built on more than individual ability. It was the product of community support, family sacrifice, and personal determination. Miguel's first European season was highly successful. He made 26 appearances, scored 8 goals, and provided 12 assists while helping his team reach the Champions League semifinals. More importantly, he established himself as a player who could perform consistently at the highest levels of international club soccer. During the season, Miguel received his first major individual recognition when he was named to the Champions League team of the season. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came when his club played a friendly match in his home country, allowing Miguel to perform in front of the community that had supported his development. The stadium was filled with people from his neighborhood, his old academy, and his former clubs. As Miguel walked onto the field wearing his European club's jersey, the ovation was thunderous and emotional. After the match, Miguel spent hours signing autographs and taking photos with young players who saw him as proof that extraordinary dreams could become reality through dedication and persistence. "If a small boy from our neighborhood can make it to the Champions League," one young player told a reporter, "then maybe any of us can achieve our dreams if we work hard enough." Miguel's story had become more than individual success. It had become inspiration for an entire generation of young players who faced similar challenges and obstacles. As Miguel entered his second European season, he reflected on the incredible journey that had brought him from those early days of feeling inadequate in pickup games to competing with the world's best players. The transformation hadn't been magic, it had been the result of thousands of hours of practice, hundreds of matches, countless moments of doubt and determination, and the unwavering support of family and coaches who believed in his potential. Miguel's second European season brought even greater achievements. He scored 15 goals and provided 20 assists, leading his team to both domestic and international success. His performances earned him recognition as one of the world's best young players and a regular position with his national team for major tournaments. At age 23, Miguel had achieved everything he had dreamed of as a small boy watching professional soccer on television. But rather than being satisfied with his success, he remained hungry for continued improvement and new challenges. "Success isn't a destination," Miguel said during an interview reflecting on his career. "It's a continuous journey of trying to become better than you were yesterday." The values that had driven Miguel's rise from neighborhood soccer to international stardom remained central to his approach: persistence in the face of obstacles, dedication to continuous improvement, respect for teammates and opponents, and gratitude for everyone who had contributed to his success. Miguel's story became a source of inspiration not just for young soccer players, but for anyone facing challenges that seemed insurmountable. His journey proved that with determination, proper preparation, and unwavering belief in yourself, extraordinary dreams could become reality. Years later, when Miguel was established as one of soccer's elite players, he would return regularly to his neighborhood to work with young players facing the same challenges he had once confronted. Remember, he would tell them, your current situation is not your final destination. Every champion was once a beginner who refused to give up. Miguel's legacy extended far beyond his goals and assists, his trophies and recognition. His greatest achievement was proving that the size of your dreams matters more than the size of your obstacles. The small boy who had once felt overwhelmed by teenage pickup games had become living proof that persistence, character, and unwavering determination could overcome any limitation and achieve any goal. Through dedication, family support, expert coaching, and an unshakable belief in his potential, Miguel Santos had transformed from an underweight, unfocused child into one of soccer's brightest stars. But perhaps most importantly, he had remained humble and grateful throughout his journey, never forgetting the people and principles that had made his success possible. Miguel's story became a testament to the truth that champions aren't born, they're created through daily choices to persist, improve, and never give up on their dreams. In neighborhoods around the world, young players continue to find inspiration in Miguel's journey, using his example as proof that with enough heart, hard work, and help from others, even the most unlikely dreams can come true. Final reflection on Miguel's journey. Miguel's transformation from an underweight, unfocused boy to a professional soccer star illustrates the profound power of persistence, proper guidance, and unwavering family support. His story demonstrates that success is not determined by initial advantages, but by the daily commitment to improvement and the courage to continue pursuing dreams despite obstacles. Key lessons from Miguel's journey include the importance of finding proper mentorship, the value of studying and understanding your craft beyond just practicing it, and the crucial role that family support plays in achieving long-term success. Most importantly, Miguel's story shows that believing in yourself and maintaining a positive attitude, even in the face of repeated setbacks, can eventually overcome any limitation. Miguel's rise proves that champions are not born with extraordinary talents, they are created through extraordinary effort, supported by people who believe in their potential, and sustained by an unshakable commitment to never giving up on their dreams.